So if you didn't know this already, you have to hurry up and sign up for a marathon because you have to run a certain time to qualify for the Boston Marathon.
Are you running a marathon? Oh my god, I could never run a marathon. You sure about that? My god, a marathon? That's like 42 kilometers, 26 miles. I don't understand those people.
That used to be me, but not anymore. Welcome to the Marathon Podcast. My name is Christian Warwick, aka Warwick Runs on different platforms. Really happy to have you here. If you're a new listener, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This episode is all about how to register and plan for the Boston Marathon 2026. We previously made an episode about the 2025 marathon, but that was more about how to run it, all of the things that you needed to know. But this one is more specifically on how to register, what you need to know, how fast you have to run, and everything for you to plan your travel or journey to the Boston Marathon. Because although Boston Marathon is a big marathon, it's super popular, it's not necessarily a marathon for everyone because you have to actually qualify. So if you didn't know this already, you have to hurry up and sign up for a marathon because you have to run a certain time to qualify for the Boston Marathon. This is what makes it one of the most prestigious, or maybe the most prestigious marathon in the world. There's only one way of running the Boston Marathon, and that is to qualify. There are a couple of more ways of running the Boston Marathon, and we'll get back to that. But number one, and like the easiest way to qualify for or to get to run the Boston Marathon is by qualifying. So first of all, to qualify for the Boston Marathon, you have a qualifying window. And this window goes from September 1st, 2024 to September 12th, 2025 at 5 p.m. So obviously it's been open for almost a year already. And that means that within this window is when you have to run your qualifying time. And you need to meet some qualifying standards. And it's not necessarily enough to run that fast. So even though there's a qualifying standard or a time for you to run, that doesn't necessarily guarantee your spot at the Boston Marathon. So before we dive more into the details here, I just thought we'll quickly go through all of the times for the different age groups for the Boston Marathon. And I'm just going to list them here. It's going to take maybe a minute or two, but these are the times that you have to do. And I'm going to read them out by age group, and then women and non-binary have the same time qualifying standards. So age group 18 to 35, men 255, women and non-binary 325. 35 to 39, 3 hours 30 for women, non-binary. 40-44, 3 hours 5 minutes, 3:35 for women and non-binary. 45 to 49, 3:15, 3:45. 50 to 54, 3:20, 3:50. 55-59, 3:30, 4 hours. 60-64, 3 hours 50 minutes, 4 hours 20 minutes. 65-69, 4 hours 5 minutes, 4 hours 35 minutes. 70-74, 4 hours 20 minutes, 4 hours 50 minutes. 75-79, 4 hours 35, 5 hours and 5. 80 and over, I'm impressed if you're running at this age, 4 hours and 50 minutes, 5 hours 20. So those are the qualifying times for the Boston Marathon in 2026. So these are the times that you have to run if you even want to register for the Boston Marathon. And this is an important thing to emphasize, and that is that these are just the times that you need to have to register. So on September 8th this year, so in less than 2 weeks, the Athletes Village will open for registration. And if you haven't done a marathon faster than the times that I just listed before September 12th, 2025, so the Friday in 2.5 weeks from today, you will not be able to register for the Boston Marathon. So the window, just to repeat this, the window for qualifying is from September 1st, 2024 to September 12th, 2025. So we're getting very close to the closing of this window. and you have to also register before this window closes on September 12th at 5 p.m. I did just mention that these times alone are not enough for you to actually get a spot at the Boston Marathon. And what do I mean by that? Well, Boston operates with something called a cutoff time. This cutoff time is kind of notorious, and it's known as this time where you have the qualifying standard, and then based on how many fast runners have actually applied, they will have a cutoff time. The reason they have this is that they can't let everyone race because the field will be too big and they need to limit it. So last year, I think they had around, at least according to the list, 30,000 runners. And with that, they had to say no to actually 12,324 qualified runners. And in this sense, when I'm saying qualified, I'm talking about the qualifying standards. The thing is that because people are now running so fast, and this is not a new thing, but because of people running faster, the amount of people who are faster than, say, 255 in my age group, there's so many. So they have to start looking at what kind of time is the kind of slowest that they can have in each age group for them to be able to still keep the field size at the right size. So just to kind of quickly go through the historically how this has been, it means that in 2018, for instance, the cutoff time was 3:23. So the cutoff time is the same for all age groups. It doesn't really matter what the time was. So say the qualifying standards were 3 hours in 2018 for an age group. 3:23 would be then 3 hours minus 3:23. So it would be 2:56:37, I guess, if my math is on point here. Anyways, that means that this cutoff time is the most important number to think about, but we don't know what that is. And that is what makes people so nervous when it comes to the Boston Marathon. We don't really know what that cutoff time will be. There are a lot of discussions about this online. If you look it up on Reddit, you will see a lot of people kind of guessing what the cutoff time will be. But it's impossible to say because this is definitely just based on the times that people have raced. And more importantly, if these fast runners have actually applied for the Boston Marathon. So I did promise you that we'd go through the historical cutoff time. So 2018, 3:23, 2019, 4:52, 2020, 1:39, 2021, 7:47, 2022. And 2022 is when they decide. So first of all, 2021, year after COVID, 7:47. So that was a different one. 2022, what was different about this was, or 2021, sorry, what was different about this was that they had to limit the field size because of COVID. So then the cutoff time was even more. And in 2022, they lowered the qualifying standards, which in turn made it kind of like easier for more runners to actually qualify. It was harder. So by that, they were able to limit the field size just without having a cutoff time. So in 2022 and 2023, they actually didn't even have a cutoff time. Everyone who was fast enough to register for the Boston Marathon actually got a spot. So historically, it looks like when they have lowered the standards that more people get in. We'll see if that is actually the case this year with the Boston Marathon because they have lowered it to 2:55 for my age group, for instance, and it used to be 3 hours. So by lowering these standards, they're hoping and trying to have a smaller field. We'll see if that works. We'll see if people running 2:54:59 will actually qualify for the Boston Marathon or get a spot at the Boston Marathon. Anyways, 2024, it was 5:29. Last year, 2025, it was 6:51. So this means that Boston Marathon is getting harder to get into, and they're trying to kind of make it a little bit harder for people to to register in the first place. For instance, they have now introduced this net downhill rule, but that won't take place until 2027. If you want to know more about this rule, you can listen to one of the previous episodes about the changes of the Boston Marathon. But in short, this means that if the course has more net downhill than a certain meters or feet, it will not count as a Boston qualifier. And this is an important thing to also emphasize, that you can't really sign up for any marathon. You can't use your half marathon time, 10K time, whatever. You have to run a Boston qualifying standard marathon. This is just a marathon kind of approved by the International Athletics Association, I think it is. But there are some measurements or some rules to what that course can actually has to be like. And you can look more into detail on this on BAA's website, but a lot of official marathons will have this in place, and they will be a Boston qualifier. But make sure it is, because it sucks if you're running a fast marathon and they're actually not a Boston qualifier. So these are the things that you obviously need to check before you run. This is up to you. I can't verify or check this for you, but there's no doubt that you just have to run as fast as you can. And then fingers crossed, when you register and when we get to October, when they'll tell us, you'll get your spot and be within the cutoff time. And then I did promise to share a couple of other ways to run the Boston Marathon. You can either do it through a charity. You can look that up if you want more information about it. You can also actually run through a tour operator if you are not an American citizen. So it's kind of for internationals only. So although there are these qualifying standards, you can actually buy yourself a way into the Boston Marathon. And then the third one is if you partner up with one of the sponsors or someone who, like a brand or whatever. You can have a brand partnership, and then you get to run the Boston Marathon, and then you don't have to think about the times. I don't want to dive deeper into those things. That's not my area of expertise, and that's also not what the Boston Marathon is about for me, to be honest. I love that it's a qualifying standard. I love that it's so hard to get in, and that is what makes Boston Marathon such a great marathon, and what makes me so proud to say that I've done Boston Marathon. And if you've been looking into the Boston Marathon, you might have seen that it's possible to pre-verify your time. This is just to save yourself some time when you get to the registration, and only if you've done a marathon before this year within this window. So for me, for instance, I did the Boston Marathon in April, and that's the only marathon that I've done so far within this window. I did verify my time there, but I'm also doing a marathon in a week and a half from today, and that one will be hopefully be my Boston qualifier. Like, I know that I was fast enough to register in Boston, but I don't believe that I will be within the cutoff time. My time was 2:53. I believe that it's going to be faster than 2:50. I don't know this for sure, but I think it will be. And so with that, I'm aiming at a 2:45 marathon. And then if you have already registered a marathon time during the summer, these are now closed, so you can't verify at this point. But if you have, you can update your time when you go to the Athletes Village on September 8th, or any days between then and September 12th. And for me, then I'm just going to update my time, because hopefully I will have a faster time by then. But pre-verification is usually during the summer. So if you're listening to this and we're not talking about the 2026 Boston Marathon, just know that during the summer you can pre-verify your time. And if you never applied for a spot at the Boston Marathon before, I want to just take you quickly through the process of doing that when we get to the registration week. So obviously it's nice to just be early just to get it over with, but know that it's not about being first. It doesn't really matter if you're the last one registering your time. It's all about how fast you actually ran. And for me, I will probably head into that website on September 8th as soon as they open it to register my time. You head over to Athletes Village. You can find that by heading over to BAA's website, baa.org, and Athletes Village, and then you register all of your information. You have to kind of verify your time, show documentation of that actually happening. It could be that they've changed the process of doing this year, but it's a pretty simple process to do. So you also have to register a credit card, and they will reserve money on your card for 10 business days, and then this will go away. And that does not mean that you have not qualified. A lot of people are freaking out about that, but it just means that because they can't reserve this amount for more than that time. And then after you've registered, or after registration, you just have to wait. And usually you'll get your answer in October. I think I got mine like beginning of October last year. And the way you're notified is through email. You'll get an email. You can also head over to Athletes Village, where you'll see that you got a spot. And some people are also noticing, maybe even before the email gets in, that the money is withdrawn from their accounts or from their credit card, because that whatever money was reserved is now actually withdrawn from your card. So you have to pay a bit of money to register or to run the Boston Marathon. If I remember correctly, it was like $250. Not a whole lot, but it's obviously still a lot. I think you can get some insurance on that in case something happens, but it's non-refundable. So if you have plans of not running Boston Marathon, just know that it is kind of a financial commitment to this. And obviously you have to pay for the whole thing with Boston Marathon, but that's a whole different discussion. Anyways, these are the things that you, I guess, like need to remember in terms of how to be notified, how to know about this. And BAA really emphasizes that it does not, or they do not want you to contact them at all about this application. I guess a lot of people are asking them if their times are verified or when they will hear from them. We will hear from them. Don't worry about that. As long as you've registered, you are good to go. So that's kind of the process of registering and waiting for the Boston Marathon. So just to sum it up, the most important things you need to remember is, first of all, when you're running this marathon within the qualifying window, which is September 1st to September 12th, you have to run what is a Boston qualifying standard race. That is one. If you've done that, you have to run faster than your qualifying standard. And you can find all of these on the BAA's website, or you can just go back in this podcast and listen to when I was listing all of them. For me, it's 2:55. I know that I have to run faster than 2:55 to be able to register, but then there is a cutoff time. We don't know what that is, so you have to run. Most likely, you'll have to run a little bit faster, but it's impossible to plan for this. So just run as fast as you can and hope for the best. An additional fact or an additional thing that you need to remember is Athletes Village, September 8th. That is when you have to be there. You have to give them your credit card. You have to show them or prove that you've been running as fast as you say that you have. And it's only a full marathon distance that counts. Do not contact the BAA. Don't get stressed out when that reserved amount of money disappears from your credit card. That is just the procedure of how things are going. And then try to relax, try to sleep, wait until October when you will be notified about your Boston Marathon. So they will also obviously publish things on their website. They will make it public what the cutoff time is. So Don't worry about that. Information will be provided to you. And the new net downhill regulations that you might have heard about, they will not be in place until the 2027 marathon. If you're planning on registering or trying to get into the Boston Marathon 2026, I wish you all the luck in the world. I really hope that you'll get to experience the Boston Marathon. It was for sure one of the best days of my life and one of my best experiences ever. And I can't wait to experience it again. Hopefully, I will be able to run and qualify with my marathon in a week or two. So thank you so much for listening. I hope this was helpful if you are applying. And again, good luck. You listen to the Marathon Podcast, brought to you by Wild Studio.